Dave Lightning McQueen. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Good to see you, Phil. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Appreciate you making the trip, obviously, especially just for us, all the way to the GC.
That's right. Well, I mean, you don't need many excuses there out to the Gold Coast. So it's, although looking outside, I think
thankfully we're recording inside today. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but it's always great to be here. I went for a walk yesterday, such a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, it is indeed. The Sunshine State.
Yeah,
we're spoiled.
Yeah.
Mate, big changes in your world. CEO, loan market, largest brokerage in the country.
Yeah.
What I'd love to talk about, I guess, or where I'd love to start is just find out a little bit more about you. Where did it all start?
Yeah, just turned 46. I feel like I'm getting old, 46. I remember thinking, thinking my dad was old when he was 30. So 46. But yeah, I grew up in a place called Camden Town in London.
Yeah.
It's an interesting place, Camden Town. Like people often say to me, "Oh, I'm sure you went to Camden Town, but were you really from Camden Town?" I was like, "No, I was actually born, grew up Camden Town, very multicultural place." So my mum was from Belfast, my dad was half Greek Cypriot, which obviously can't show because of my lack of tan.
Definitely didn't get his colour.
Yeah, I didn't get his colour. I got the paleness. They used to call me Casper the Ghost at school. So I grew up in a place called Camden Town, really multicultural, very ethnically diverse place, which I think had a big impact on me in terms of my upbringing, the way that I saw the world. But yeah, really cool place. I grew up in a council estate, which sometimes people look back and go, "Oh, was that hard?" No, I look back. Maybe rose-tinted glasses, but I loved where I grew up. I loved going home.
Yeah.
It was an awesome place. We grew up 5 minutes from Regent's Park, 5 minutes from London Zoo. We had Regent's Canal, and you have people going back to those places on holiday. And I look back and think how awesome that was. So I loved it. But at a young age, I remember my mum putting a big emphasis on education. So whilst I grew up in Camden Town, I went to school probably about 3-4 miles away, a place called Belsize Park. So she was like, "You're not going to any of the local schools. You're going to a really good school a few miles away." So it was ingrained in me from a young age how important education was and how important sports and fitness were. So they were the two things that my mum in particular really instilled in me.
Love that. And the move to Australia, what was what brought you to this beautiful country?
I don't know how many people have ever told this, but people are like, "Oh, do you want to go to Australia?" And I was like, no, it just sounds like a hot England. I'll go to Thailand, I'll go to Spain, I'll go to Italy. So after I left university, I went backpacking in Thailand. I was meant to go for 4 weeks and ended up staying there for about 8-9 months. And when I was traveling, I met an Australian girl called Alice, who I then now married. So that was 2008. So I came over from Thailand initially, just thinking I'd come see how it goes, and that was 2008 GFC. Got a job at Macquarie Bank, and never went home.
And it's yourself, Alice, little Hamish.
Yeah, Hamish just turned 8, the real Lightning McQueen. He says I'm not allowed to call myself that anymore because I'm too slow. And then Huey, who's my youngest, who's 4. Yeah.
Yeah, how are you enjoying that? How's dad life?
Yeah, it's I love it. To me, it's the biggest privilege in life is to be a father. It's interesting. I say to them, now I know how much my mum loved me by being a dad, because I don't think you know until, obviously you love your parents, but I think the way that you have that obligation to make sure everything's right for your kids and to bring them up, and that love that you have for your kids, I absolutely love it. I'm trying to be very careful that I don't try and live too much through them when they're on the football pitch and stuff like that, I just love it. And they're getting to an age now where Hamish in particular, he's starting to watch Home Alone and Never Ending Story. Movies that I can rewatch, so it's reliving the youth a little bit, but I'm incredibly proud of my kids. Love watching them play sports, love just watching them learn, love watching what they do.
The competitive dad on the sidelines.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that. Yeah, it's trying to manage components of that. So
and you moved to Australia with Alice. Was it that we'll get to that around the professional sports stuff? Yeah. But was it a work movement? Was it straight into sports?
I played football ever since as a kid, right? So
growing up, I just want to get that clear. Yeah.
So I grew up the whole of my childhood just thinking I was going to be a professional soccer player. And now my son's going to have to go through that disappointment as well, probably. When I came to Australia, so I went to uni. I started uni at 23, so a little bit older, because obviously I've been doing some other stuff that I'd failed at. And so then by the time I graduated, I was like 27, and went backpacking, came to Australia, not really with an understanding of what I wanted to do, to be honest. Like I came over, got a job at Macquarie Bank. The one thing that I think I've always done in jobs is just try to stand out. So like I look back, like 2010, I was at Macquarie Bank, like kind of earning $24 an hour as a backpacker, but there were 20 of us just having to process like term deposit requests. I wanted to be the best at that.
Yeah.
And then when I was in credit at Homeside, like I wanted to be the best at completing like deals there. Then when I was at BDM, I wanted to be the best. So I don't think I ever set out and said, I want to be a head of, I want to be this. I just wanted to always probably be the best at what I was doing. And I think when you do that, that opens doors, as opposed to maybe there being a natural pathway where I was strategically saying, as an example, I want to be CEO.
Big lessons there. And then 2013, obviously, whether many listeners know or not, but quite a significant health event, an accident with an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? This no doubt has shaped a lot of where we are today for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if people actually know that when I went over to Thailand, I was about to propose to Alice, and I reckon it's the stress of proposing that caused the aneurysm. So I can tell her that she was to blame. Nah. But on a serious note, look, I mean, I was in Thailand, started to feel the loss of my arms a little bit. I was with one of my best mates, Sean O'Sullivan, luckily enough, because he took me to hospital. I didn't really know what was going. It was like, Jesus, is this a stroke? Is this like, and then they did some scans and they were like, oh, you're okay, but you got an aneurysm. I was like, isn't that a Nirvana song? Like, I didn't really know what it was. And then I was like, oh, that's okay. And they were like, no, it's quite serious. And then they were like, you should probably go home to Australia though, like for the surgery and stuff. So in Thailand, had like what was a leaking aneurysm, flew back to Australia, had to have pretty quick surgery. I had half my head cut open, skull. It was quite invasive. I probably didn't realize how hard it was going to be. I think it was 33, 34 at the time. Like, you go from being like, I was quite a decent athlete, quite fit, quite strong, to all of a sudden not being able to walk for 3 months. Like, it was quite a tough period of time. And then losing, I wear sunglasses a lot, and people are like, why do you wear sunglasses? Because I lost most of the use of my right eye. And funnily enough, last podcast I did with a video, someone ridiculed my eye, which makes me sensitive.
Yeah, I was going to come to that.
And look, I could have done more about that, but it says more about them than me, right?
Yeah.
So that's on them. But it was a big deal, because I went from being in my head like I was still playing Premier League football, like just amateur, like for Mossman at the time, like, and all of a sudden you're like struggling to walk, let alone run. But my mum, when I was recovering, I think my mum said something to me, and people look at that message and they think it was a hard message. But she said to me, if you're just going to give up now, you may as well have died on the operating table. And I started like walking up a Wilder Street, like this one of the steepest hills in Sydney, like started walking up, started running up. And within a year, I started playing football again. And obviously I wasn't anywhere near as good, which sometimes frustrated me. But within 2 years, I was top goal scorer again for the team I was playing for. And I started getting back to the gym. And I think what that message my mum gave me, which was right for me, she understood me. And I think that's a really important part of leadership, that she might not have given that same message to my brother, but she would have given the message to me, because she knew what would have triggered a reaction in me, which was I needed someone to tell me, stop feeling sorry for yourself, because that's the kind of message that I would react to. Get up and actually live life. Like, and there were times where I stood in front of a mirror and was like looking at my eye, almost crying, going, this is my new reality. But then you learn to live with it. Like one of my mates, when I think we were 21 in Greece, fractured his spine and lost most of the use of his arms, complete use of his legs. But so as bad as stuff may have been for me at that time, it's a lot worse for other people.
Yeah.
I could have died at the time. It could have been a lot worse.
And I guess was that part of the approach, I guess, you know, sort of running towards something, not away from something?
I think I've always faced into stuff. Like I think you have to. Like I think for me, absolutely. Like so a lot of people would have slowed down after what happened to them. Within 2 years I was doing an MBA and applying for a head of role at uni.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was smart or not. I mean, it's quite a while ago now. Like it's over 10 years ago. So yeah, like I remember an exec at a bank said to me, you're never going to be able to progress now in your career because of your health issues. And I was a bit like, F you. Like I was like, I'll show you, mate. Like, so yes, I definitely face into stuff. And I think you've got to own it. Like, that's definitely my personality, but I respect also that not everybody's personalities are going to be the same. But for me, it was definitely I'm not going to let this dictate my future. I'm not going to let the fact that I had an aneurysm or lost the use of my right or the way that I look dictate that I can't get on stage in front of 500 people. Or I can't run a business because I think I can.
I one of the things I've read in the LinkedIn article that really sort of grabbed me was that you said your recovery became an addiction.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think for high performers, for, you know, in business, in leadership, in, you know, the approach to things like that, right? It's sort of almost to pick your poison a little bit, right? You got to be very careful on that edge. And healthy or unhealthy as an addiction can be, it is what it is, right? And that approach for you was one of the biggest keys to success in that recovery.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good point because I think you said there that it's amazing the amount of when you read about like reforming, like Russell Brand talks about a reforming addict that becomes addicted to running or becomes addicted to sports, etc. That addictive personality, whatever, like I think it can have both its positives and negatives. You've got to be really careful, like even with fitness, etc. So definitely, like for me, it became an addiction because if I set my eyes on a target, I'm like, I need to achieve that. And you've got to be careful with that. There were times where I was in the gym and I'd get a slight twitch in my head or my thing and thinking, geez, could I be like having another aneurysm? Like what's that line? But at the same time, I always believe what makes you, what your greatest strengths are also your greatest weaknesses. And I think that's the case in a lot of walks of life. And I think my greatest strengths probably are my resilience, my perseverance, that desire to continuously win, but can also be a weakness. Because sometimes it means that you can be a little bit stubborn, you can go a little bit too hard.
The imbalance of pushing past that. And even you mentioned before, we spoke about it last night, that a few weeks ago you did that podcast and, you know, someone had left a comment on the bottom, and curiosity around that is sort of how do you approach that now, 10 years later, you know, compared to maybe how you did when that maybe had first happened?
I mean, if I'm being honest, like if I was younger, I'd have been wanting to relive my amateur boxing skills, which is stupid. Like, it's
a natural reaction, right? And so in that, it's like how you've learned to be better or the bigger person.
I think, you know, I don't know if it's maturity or the aneurysm or a combination of both. I think when I was in my 20s, I was so obsessed with winning that it hindered me I don't think I was a true leader on reflection because I didn't slow down, give consideration to things and think, like seeing things from different sides. So in that instance, as an example, my response in the end was one to kind of not go and say to that, like not go and to chase it down, because look, be kind for everyone's fighting their own battle. You don't know what's happening.
It was just I had that written down. You know, it's another thing that you use.
So it is what it is. Like, did it hurt me at the time? Yeah, but you know what? Like, sticks and stones might break my bone. Like it kind of says more about somebody else than me. And also on reflection, I've probably said some really stupid stuff in the past that I look back and think I shouldn't have done that. And it's probably taught me a lot in the sense that sometimes think about when you're in a world of social media, as an example, where people just jump on and can say really hateful comments or something. You don't really think about the impact that that's having on that person. So I try and do that a bit more now. And I think that's a level of maturity. Maybe that took me to have something happen to me to understand that a bit more. Like I experienced it as a kid where there was a lot of racism where we grew up towards people from Bangladeshi backgrounds. I was probably ignorant to that until my nan, who was Greek Cypriot, some kids started shouting racial abuse at her about thinking she was Bangladeshi. And that got me angry. And I was like, but I was never angry before that, like, as it was, until it actually impacted me. So I think that whole point around really trying to put yourself in the lens of others and understanding and look, just trying to be a good person. And revenge isn't a good, like trying to go after someone for saying something stupid isn't the right answer. Education is. I think education is important, and maybe making people aware of how stuff can hurt people. Like when you see someone walking around in sunglasses, it might not be because they think that they're cool. It might be because they've got a damaged eye, and it could be lots of things that we can't see, as an example with mental health.
Internal, not just external.
Yeah. So,
which is probably the biggest risk, I think, in today's world.
Yeah.
And if we talk sort of now, 10 years later, there's lots of lessons, there's lots of learnings in there. But maybe what's the one piece of advice you give someone that's maybe facing adversity, or there's an event that's out of their control?
Yeah. Look, I think if it's out of your control, you can only control what you can control. And I think getting really clear on what you can control and what you can't. So if I look at my aneurysm, I couldn't control that it happened. What I could control was my efforts to recover. So I could control eating well. I could control managing stress. I could control exercise. I could control my recovery subsequently. So I think getting really clear on what you can and can't control and telling yourself that. Now, look, that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think that those positive reinforcements around that piece are really important. I mean, look, we wear the whoops, right? So what does the whoop do? The whoop can give you indicators of what makes you feel good and what doesn't. When you wake up with a bad night's sleep, and then again, I can control that if the whoop tells me if I have more than 2 drinks, then I'm going to feel bad the next day.
You just don't look at the whoop.
Don't look at the whoop. Easy. Yeah.
And what about the crossover from, obviously, with your leadership journey and your time in playing professional sports?
Yeah.
What are maybe some of the lessons or learnings, or how's professional sports taking you into your leadership journey?
Yeah, I mean, look, I say professional sports, like I failed because I never really made it. Look, I think that desire,
playing at that level.
Yeah. So, and look, I obviously, I think the desire to, when I look back at my football career, like started playing like the age of 10, like playing for my county, London, etc., clubs, like I look back and think, I don't know if it was really a desire, like what got me there. I don't know. Was it technical ability? Was it a desire? I look back, I don't ever think I was the best, but I think I wanted it the most. And I think that always was the case. That's the case now. I still play now. I'm still playing over 45s for North Sydney. And last year, my best games were in the semi-final and the final. And I think that wasn't about technical ability. It was my desire to win. And I look back, so I don't know if that's what helped me in playing soccer. I think it was that work ethic. I see it in my son, like that desire to win, relentlessness. So there were always people more skillful than me. There were always people technically better than me. The one thing that I believe that I always had on the pitch was you would not want to win more than me. Like when I was on that pitch, I was never giving up. Like it was, and last year, my son came and watched me. I was playing my old football team, and I scored an equaliser in the 91st minute against my old team. That wasn't skill. It wasn't technical ability. It was desire to get at the end of that ball in the 91st minute. And to me, that's the differentiation between sometimes one person and the other is. It's like when you're running a marathon, you sprint at the end. That desire, and that was the same I talk about with the aneurysm. Like, I'm never going to give up. Like, I'm going to fight until the very end. So I don't know if I learned that from playing football. I think that helped me in football. But at the end of the day, I wasn't good enough. I don't think I didn't make it at the top end of football because of a mindset piece. I just think I wasn't quite good enough. Like I was fast, but I wasn't super fast. Like I look back, there's a guy called Marlon Harewood who played for Nottingham Forest. He's got a good LinkedIn profile. Check him out. He's some good stuff. Like I look back, and when we were kids, like I was fast, but he was super fast. And then Joe Cole grew up around where we were, who had an amazing career. Like I was skillful, but he was like next level skillful, right? And these guys had good Premier League careers. So I don't look back and think with any, like I don't look back and think, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, because I don't think that's true. I think I probably overachieved because of a desire and because my parents helped me.
But then you brought that into other areas of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And with the new role, obviously, you've gone from, leading a team, I guess, to now leading an entire organization. Right? We look at the role and the CEO role. So how have you needed to grow, I guess, personally or as a leader to be able to step into such a big role?
I think when I was in the risk and compliance role, I could be a SME, I could be a specialist, and it meant typically, like in that role, if somebody came to me with a question, a lot of the time I would have the answer. Whereas now, if somebody came to me with a marketing question and said, like, it's what does SEO mean? And obviously I know that, but I'm not the expert. So I think in this role, it is definitely more around how do you enable others to be the best possible leaders of their function, as opposed to me necessarily saying this is what we should do. And it's you can't, especially the higher up you go in these roles, you cannot control everything. Like I can't control marketing, I can't control tech. So you have to make sure that you've got the best people around you, that you have that confidence and that engagement with and that interaction with that enables them to be the best possible version of themselves. You've got to be really curious around it. But yeah, so to me, the CEO role, as much as anything, is probably like when you're picking a football team, is have you got the right players in the right positions, and are you enabling them to be the best possible version of themselves?
Do you find that leadership comes naturally to you?
Yes, yeah. And look, it's interesting. People often say, how much is innate? How much can you be taught? Like, I look back at my mum, like people talk about mentors, heroes. Like my mum was like my absolute mentor, hero. She was a natural leader, little 5'2" Northern Irish woman, like powerful, strong, like great talker. So I don't know if it's genetic or if it's just that I learned from her. But I do feel leadership's always naturally come to me. I've always felt confident in the ability to go up to others and kind of drive, I guess, people towards a common goal. That ability, yeah. So
how do you think people would describe you as a leader?
I don't know. It depends if I'm in the room or not.
Yeah, which room, which people?
Yeah. And there's no doubt that different people would describe me in different ways. Like I said, like when I was in my 20s, like somebody did say to me before my aneurysm, I was just all about winning. And I think that's right. Like that doesn't mean I'm still not about winning, but I think the pathway to winning in my mind has changed. I would hope that people would see me as someone that wants to enable them, like I said previously, around how do I enable them to be the best possible version of themselves? So what's the doors that I can open for them to be really good at what they do, as opposed to, like, I'm not a dictator. Like I'm never going to say to someone, this is what you have to do. Like it's up to you to live your own journey. Like I can't say to people, you have to be exactly the same to me as a leader. Like that's the whole reason that we embrace not just diversity in terms of cultural and gender, but it's actually that diversity of thought, and that's really important. So for me, I would hope that people would say that I would be a supportive leader who's going to listen to them and try and support them into being the best possible version of themselves, and to be a coach in terms of helping them, again, to grow. But I wouldn't, sometimes people think that relaxed nature that I sometimes have, I wouldn't mistake that for a lack of desire to win, because 100%, like I'm not in this CEO role as an example to come second. Like I want us to be the best at what we do, but maybe the pathway to being the best is bringing others on the journey as opposed to forcing people on that pathway.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that Loan Market does exceptionally well, and big part of the reason that I love the group is culture. And obviously, culture is a word that's thrown around a lot, but it very much from a family, like it does really come from the top down, and your role will be instrumental in continuing to drive that. What does great culture look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I can't remember who. I was speaking to somebody and they said to me on Monday's the worst day of the week yesterday. And actually, I never look at a day and say, like, that's not, that. Like, to me, Monday, I love Mondays. Like, I love Tuesdays, I love Wednesdays, I love Sundays. So great culture to me is when you wake up and actually want to go to work. Like, you want to go and work in that workplace. And that's why I actually do have concerns sometimes about working from home, because not to say that you shouldn't have flexibility on that, but like I think a great workplace is a place that you have that desire to go into, that you're excited to go in there, that you're excited to go and speak to your colleagues in the same way that, and again, it's the same as a football pitch. Like, I can't wait to get on the football pitch on Sunday, but I actually look forward to going to work on the Monday and being like, what we're going to do. Like, here's a goal that we're collectively going to go after that. So I think corporate wise, that culture around everyone wanting to go there, everyone pulling together towards achieving that common goal.
Yeah, I love that. And if we you mentioned the whoop before, right? So other than wearing a whoop, in that role, is there, and I guess in that role, but I mean at any level of whether that's high performance, whether it's business leadership, whether it's management, what are you doing to stay sharp? What do you prioritize? I know you travel a lot.
Yeah, look, I think it's really important. I think people underestimate, and there's no easy answer. Look, I mean, I listened to your podcast with Sam. Sam spoke about sleep and exercise. I think that's right, but it's easier said than done. So there are days where I know I'm not going to get the right amount of sleep. So then it's probably about the balance. Like, if you're not going to get the right amount of sleep, what can you do? Can you make sure you drink a litre of water both before you go to bed? So it goes back to what we said earlier around the controllables. If I know I'm on a 6 a.m. flight, what can I control? Well, I can control that I can exercise the night before. So I think, but being clear on what's really important, which is exercise, healthy eating, getting as much sleep as possible. The exercise to me is really important. Like, you've got to stay, at least for me, like I don't know if everybody is the same, but if I don't exercise, the whoop knows. Low, but I know in my mind, like, I don't need a whoop.
Without the physical, the mental's not sharp.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. I just don't know how you can operate at any sustainable level without the other.
Absolutely, 100%. Like, it's when I play football, I walk off that pitch feeling amazing. Like, better if we win. Not so good if we lose. But I feel good. Like, the exercise gets the endorphins running, and then I actually feel that when I go to work, like afterwards, or if I'm doing work afterwards, I've got that energy, I've got that focus. Whereas if you're hungover, it's really hard to work the next day. So again, knowing what those triggers are, and that doesn't mean, by the way, you can't go out and enjoy yourself and have drinks, but knowing that and actually planning your calendar around that. So knowing that if you're going to, as an example tonight, if we've got we've got a party at a conference this evening, you know that Wednesday,
hypothetically,
if we had that, then you would be Wednesday morning, you're probably not going to lock in a strategy session for 3 hours. Yeah. Like, so it's, I think knowing what's in your calendar and thinking about how am I going to get that balance right in terms of, depending on your calendar, how you're going to schedule pieces around that is really, really important.
Yeah. I love the approach.
You got to turn up.
Yeah. Mentors, influences in your life. You mentioned your mum before, and any others that have had a real impact?
Yeah, loads. If I look at, like, throughout my career, I've been really lucky to have had a lot. Like, I look back, like, teachers as an example. Like, I remember one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Lal, was a history teacher, soccer coach. Like, so the things that I love. So I went to university and studied history, and obviously love football. So I look back and think that, like, it's funny. My dad always says to me, "Why'd you talk about your mum so much?" And my dad, like, we have a very good relationship as well, but he's a lot quieter, but huge work ethic. So taught us about the work ethic component growing up. One of my favorite books growing up was A Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela, and it's funny. My mum was a staunch Labour voter, very left-wing socialist growing up, and instilled a lot of those values in me. So the likes of Nelson Mandela and Gandhi, etc., like reading their books and those components definitely influenced a lot of my thinking growing up. But then more recently, we're lucky that we've got Sam leading our business, who I think I don't know if he knows this, but when the small things that he does are great examples as an example, the culture that you want to create or the business that you want to run. And I was speaking to Lauren Hall, who reminded me about the handwritten notes that Sam does and the impact that had. And it's those little pieces, excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. It's what we repeatedly do. Like I can stand there and do something once to one person and not do it for the other 99. And then I wonder why people don't think I'm really good at this. So I think there's been every leader that I've had has probably influenced me in different ways, some more so than others. But I look at Scaly, who's now running New South Wales. One of the reasons I joined Loan Market was because I thought he was a great guy and a great leader. And when he stands up and talks, he talks from the heart. He talks very calmly, brings people on the journey. Like a great example of a leader that he's running New South Wales, and commercial at the same time. Like I still look at him as someone that I look up to and say, I'd love to be more like that, and I can learn from.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
And my final question. One piece of advice for young leaders.
Yeah. We have a trait that's called, like a value that's called curiosity. If I was to say, what's that, I try and instill this in my children as well. I think the biggest thing is to read as much as possible, be curious, just every day is a school day, learn as much as possible. The world is constantly going to change. So, 3 years ago, we wouldn't have been thinking that we have to be an expert in generative AI. I think the world's going to constantly change, and the only way you can keep pace with that is to keep learning. And not everybody's going to want to be a CEO. Not everybody's going to want to do different things. But the one thing that I think we can all aspire to is just learn more about the world around us, whatever you want to do. So the more we read, the more we learn, and the more and learning from listening to others as opposed to talking to others is really valuable. Yeah.
Love it. Dave, mate, thank you. Great chat. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Done. Cheers.
Awesome, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, mate.